Okay. Thank you, those of you that have green on the left, notes on the right. Okay. All right, so the nice thing about today is it's an extension of yesterday. We're still dealing with one-step equations. The steps are actually exactly the same, but instead of adding and subtracting, we're going to deal with equations, one-step equations that have multiplication and division in it. Now, the difference about today is that when we go to solve them, there's a couple little twists that I want to make sure within our work that we're careful of. All right, so I have some little reminders I want to show you, and I also want to show you the proper way to show your work, what your high school teachers will want you to do. And it's just kind of a proper way to show your work, especially on multi-step equations when they become larger for you. Okay, so we do have some vocab today. All right, so let's go ahead. It's kind of a lot of either review or probably words that you kind of already know what they mean based off of yesterday's lesson. So here we go. Let's start with the very first word. That first word is coefficient. Everyone?
Coefficient.
All right, so this is a review word, right? So your book says a coefficient is the numerical factor of a term that contains a variable. The numerical factor of a term that contains a variable. Okay? So, in your little box, most of you, on your box on the side, go ahead and put 8y. Okay, and then underline the 8. Because in that term, 8y, the 8 is our coefficient. All right, the next word or phrase is the division property of equality. Everyone?
Division property of equality.
All right, so your book says, and this sounds just like our properties yesterday, right? Just one little difference. It says if you divide each side of an equation by the same non-zero number, the two sides remain equal. Okay? The difference, of course, is that little word non-zero, meaning you'd have to do it with any number other than 0. Okay? And it would remain equal. Okay, so go ahead and start by, in your little box, writing down 4x equals 8. It's a simple one-step equation. 4x equals 8. And then right under it, write this equation. 4x divided by 2 is still equal to 8 divided by 2. Meaning all you're doing there is dividing both sides by 2. And it would remain equal. All right, now comes our next phrase. Here we go. Multiplication property of equality. Everyone?
Multiplication property of equality.
So this is if you multiply each side of an equation by the same non-zero number, the two sides remain equal. And so in your little box, off to the side, for your examples, go ahead and start by writing 2y equals 8. So another little simple equation. 2 times y equals 8. And then right under it, go ahead and write down 2y times 2 is equal to 8 times 2. So just multiplying both sides by 2. Okay. All right, that is it for vocab. So just kind of leading into our lesson. So go ahead, once you have that down, put your vocab away, grab your book. All right, and once you have your book, go ahead and let's go to page 450. Page 450. All right, when you're ready to go, eyes up here. All right, here we go. All right, on page 450, we're looking at problem number 4. Problem number 4 looks a little like this. Here we go. It is P divided by 9 equals 9. P divided by 9 equals 9. Okay. Now, first of all, you see it as a fraction, all right? But what you need to start doing, right, and we've talked about this kind of throughout the year, is it is a fraction, you're right, but we should see it when it comes to an equation as division, okay? So you're going to find that the steps are exactly the same as yesterday. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to go into detail about the steps when it comes to our notes. We'll still write them down, or the S's, the little parts of them with the arrows, but I'm going to really focus in on what the differences are between today and yesterday. All right, so here we go. So step 1, remember, is find your variable, box it in. Okay, that's very important because that tells you which side of the equal sign we need to start on. Now comes step 2. Okay, step 2, remember, we need to do the inverse operation, basically the opposite. Well, to find out what the opposite is, you have to know what's going on here. Well, in this case, it's P divided by 9. So everyone, what's the opposite of division? Multiplication. Now, here's what I want you to do. Put a little star by step 2, because this is the part on this problem that I want you to remember. I want you guys to, when you show multiplication, show it like this. In parentheses, whatever number you're multiplying it by. Because remember, if you put parentheses around a number and put it right next to something else, that is implying multiplication. It's just another way to show multiplication. Okay? Now, step 3 is, of course, whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So, again, show multiplication. Parentheses, 9. So that is showing 9 times 9. Now, listen, you do not have to write this next part down, okay? Actually, this part you do. Step 4 is we're going to go ahead and solve or simplify, okay? But you don't have to write what I'm about to show you down, okay? Not yet, anyway. These are going to cancel out. And here's why this works. Because if you multiply this fraction by a 9, here's what you're really doing. You're multiplying it by 9 over 1. Right? 9 and 9 over 1 are the same. And if I was to multiply these two, guess what? Those would cross cancel. And we'd end up with P over 1, which is just P. So we're still isolating the variable by doing the inverse. So that's how it works. Now what I want all you have to do to write this down is when we go to solve, just cross out your 9s. Okay, go ahead and do that now. All right, so these cancel out. That's the whole reason why we do the inverse. And we end up with just P for step 4. And that's going to be equal to, and then of course 9 times 9 gives us 81. So our solution is P is equal to 81. Okay. All right, questions? Okay, here's the one I want you guys to try out. Problem number 9 on page 451. Problem number 9. All right, I'll check in with you guys in about 30 seconds. Go. many of you need more time? All right, check with you about another 30 seconds. Guys, those of you that haven't gotten your log signed, don't forget, get it signed tonight. It was really due today. Okay, how many of you still need more time on that one? Okay, about 15 seconds. Okay. All right, so I'm about to let you guys share. When you share, I still, just like yesterday, I want you to make sure that your neighbor is boxing in the variable. I want you to make sure your neighbor is showing work on both sides of the equal sign, which includes the multiplication looking like this. And then your answer, your solution, should have the variable with the equal sign. All right, so make sure your neighbor has that whenever you guys share. Okay, and then of course, yes, share your final solution. All right, 30 seconds. Turn to your neighbor and share. Go.
I circled my variable, and then I did the inverse. So then I did G times 10, but then I crossed out the tens. Then I did negative 9 times 10, and then that equals negative 9.
I boxed in my G, and then basically the same thing.
All right, checking in with you guys. All right, all I want right now is just a solution. I want to see what your guys, what do you have for a solution? Seat 13. Negative 90 equals G. Okay, which is the same as G equals negative 90. Okay, agree, disagree. What do you guys think? Okay. All right, well, let's check it out here. So page 451, problem number 9 was G divided by 10 is equal to negative 9. So if we find our variable, box it in, it's being divided by 10. So I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to multiply by 10 here. And then I do the same thing to the other side, multiply by 10. Those cancel. I end up with G is equal to, and then 9 times 10 is 90. A negative times a positive is a negative. So we end up with G is equal to negative 90. So well done, guys. All right, questions on that one? All right, let's try another one. Here we go. Take a look at page 450. Back to 450. Let's look at problem number 2. All right, here's what we have on problem number 2. We have 24 is equal to negative 8x. All right, we're going to write the steps on this one as well. Here we go. Step 1 is, again, yes, find your variable, box it in. Okay. Now, step 2. X is being multiplied with negative 8. So I'm going to do the opposite of multiplication. What is it, guys? Division, right? Put a little star by step 2 because there's a special way that you need to show division. All right? And it shouldn't be of a surprise because if you look all over your math page in your math book, it shows it every single time. You're going to write your division sign as a fraction when you're dealing with equations. Now here's another note I want you to make on step 2. This is another thing. Here we go. Write down only one inverse operation. Remember, inverse means opposite. Only one inverse operation. Do not forget. So here we go. We have negative 8 times x. I'm going to divide. What am I going to divide by, guys? Okay. So first of all, I have a few different answers out there. If you said 24, then you need to make sure that you know why we're boxing the variable. The whole reason why we're boxing the variable is because we're looking at what's next to it. It's being multiplied with a negative 8. If you're saying divide by 24, you're doing this to make me happy, and then you're going to the other side and going left to right like you're used to. Be careful of that. You do not want to do that. For those of you that said divide by 8, you are the reason why I wrote this in our notes. Because listen, what you did is you went, here's multiplication, we did division. That's the opposite. That's the inverse operation. Then you turned around and said negative 8 becomes a positive 8. Boom, there's your second inverse. Do not do two inverses in one shot. The division is our inverse, meaning that when we divide, we have to divide by this integer, which is negative 8. So do not forget that. You're only dealing with one inverse operation. That is the division part. You keep the negative 8 as negative 8. Okay? Step 3. Of course, we go to the other side. We still show division like this. And remember, whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So please don't divide by a positive 8 over here, because that's not what we did over here. Okay, that's like saying, like when we're talking about the 6th grade camping trip, right? And we're stopping in Columbia, the scale, right? It would like be saying like, oh, you're going to go ahead and take 2 weights off of this side, and over here you're going to add 2 weights. Well, it's not going to get equal, right? It's going to get even worse. So you have to, whatever you do to one side, you do the exact same thing to the other. That is, we divide by 8 here. Negative 8. And then step 4 is we're going to go ahead and solve. So 24 divided by negative 8, right? 24 divided by 8 is 3. Positive and a negative, they're different. So it's a negative 3 is equal to, well, this of course cancels out, and we end up with x. So we have our solution that the x is equal to negative 3. All right, questions on that? Especially the 2 little notes we made ourselves for step 2 there. Any questions? All right, here we go. Here's the one I want you guys to try. Problem number 3 on page 451. Problem number 3. All right, go. Okay, how many of you need more time? Okay. Those of you that have finished that and feel comfortable with it, you are actually good to go on anything other than word problems. You can continue on some of your other work while the rest of the people are finishing. Okay, here we go. I'm about to have you share. So when you share, again, remember, make sure that they show their work on both sides. Make sure that they're dividing by the correct integer on both sides. Okay, don't forget about that. All right, and of course you're going to check your solution. All right, make sure they box in their variable, of course. All right, 30 seconds. Turn to your neighbor and share. Go.
You go first. Okay. I put a negative 4 underneath these word b, so I would cancel out. And then I did the same thing to the negative 32, and I divided 32 by 4, which is 8. And since they are both negatives, it would be changed to positive, and I got 8 equals b. Number 3.
All right, here we go. Problem number 3. All right, so number 3 was negative 32 equals negative 4b. All right, so again, just finding out what solutions are out there. Checking in with you guys. Okay, so seat number 19. Okay, got 8. Is that the correct way to write our solution? Look at all 3 of my other solutions. How do they look? B equals 8. Positive 8. All right. Agree, disagree. What do you guys think? All right. Okay, well, let's check it out. Here we go. B, there it is. Remember, you stick to this side. Don't go over to that 32. On this side, it's being multiplied with negative 4. I'm going to divide. Remember, only one inverse, meaning that I'm going to divide by negative 4. Whatever I do to this side, I do the exact same thing to the other side. Divide by negative 4. These cancel. We end up with B is equal to, and now we have 32 divided by 4, which is 8. And yes, they're both negative, so our answer is positive. All right, B is equal to 8. Nicely done, guys. Okay, questions on that one? Okay, here's what I want you guys to do next is let's go ahead, let's check out problem number 7 on page 450. All right, problem number 7. So it is a word problem. Here we go. Let's go ahead and close read it. Number 7. Antonia earned $6 hour helping her grandmother. Write and
Solve
an equation to find out how many
hours
she needs to work to earn $48. Okay, so it's a word problem. Here's what I want you to start getting used to when you were writing equations. And that does say write and solve an equation. So we have to do both to get this right. Okay, so many of us could look at that word problem and know the answer. Okay, and that's okay. At least when it's an easy problem like that, knowing the answer will give you feedback when you finally get your answer, if you did it right or not. Okay, so knowing the answer is okay on an easy problem, but please don't just write down the answer. Go, all right, that's mental math. I do it all in my head. Okay, because like we've talked about on many times before, on many occasions, if this is a test problem and it says write and solve an equation, you're going to get a point for the written equation, writing the actual equation out, and then a point for it solved correctly with the correct answer. Okay? If you just get the correct answer, you just got 1 out of the 2 points. Ladies and gentlemen, remember we talked about that. That's 50%. You basically just got an F on that one math problem because you didn't bother writing the equation. Okay, remember we've talked about this, especially this level. Not everything is all about just the answers. Okay, we have to still, some of us still have to understand that, so be careful. Because in my other classes I've seen, when I've taught this lesson, when I've taught these, everyone, I hear people just shout out the answer right away. They know the answer, and then all of a sudden, I could tell they're not listening to the lesson at all. And they're hurting their chances of succeeding on the test, because that's not how the test is graded. That's not how a 7th grader is what you're expected to know. One of your standards for this grade is the ability to write an equation, not just solve one. Okay? So that's why I spend time. That's where we talk about bar diagrams, sorting our thoughts out, and then coming up with how do we transfer that to a written equation. All right, so here we go. All right, so step 1 is just like we talked about yesterday. I'm going to go ahead and write a bar diagram. Okay, so it's just a rectangle, right? And then step 2 is, remember what we talked about. The top, you're going to go ahead and you're going to put a total on top. Now, the total is not always easy to find, okay? But in this case, the total I could tell is the $48 because she's trying to work up to earn a total of $48. Okay? So the total in this problem is the 48. That's what the top value is. Now remember, the bottom value is going to equal the top because it's part of a bar diagram. They're equal to each other. They're the same length, basically. That's kind of what the whole idea of a bar diagram is. So that leads me to step 3, and that is what kind of expression, according to the story, can we come up with down here? So if I'm using this diagram, It says she has to earn $6 per hour. So here's how I'm going to show this. On this bar diagram, for that section of the bar, we could say that's 1 hour. It's going to be $6. If she worked another hour, that's another $6. If she worked another hour, that's $6. Okay? Now, listen, if you want to, you can put a bunch of $6, but I'm just going to put ... because what that does is it just gives me an idea. It's a repetitive $6. And anytime it's a repetitive $6, like I could say 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6, well, you guys learned in elementary school, that's multiplication. And another way to prove it is say, oh, if she worked 3 hours, she'd earn $18 because 6 times 3 is 18. She worked 5 hours, right? The way you'd find out how much she earned is 6 times 5, which is $30, right? So bottom line is that I'm going to go ahead and use that. It's multiplication of 6. The problem is we don't know how many 6s there are because that's a whole question. It says how many hours? That's right. This is all 1 hour. So how many of those are there? So when it comes to step 4 and writing our expression, that's how I'm going to write it. 6 times the unknown. Well, the unknown in algebra, right, is a variable. 6 times x. X being how many hours she has to work. Remember, the bottom is 6x. The top is 48. And remember the whole bar diagram, the idea of the bar diagram is they're equal to each other. So now I'm going to go ahead and do step 5, and that is I'm going to go ahead and solve. So box it in. That's multiplied by 6. I'm going to divide both sides by 6. That cancels, and I end up with x equals, well, 48 divided by 6 is 8, which I heard a lot of you guys say earlier, is our answer. But don't forget the last step, and it's kind of a step, right? It's a word problem. Put your units. The units, I reread the question. How many hours she needs to work? So, ladies and gentlemen, it is 8 hours. I can guarantee you, all right, when we correct this for homework tomorrow, this problem would have had 6x equals 48 as part of the answer. So you'll have to have that, just like last night's homework when we corrected last night's, along with the 8 hours. And show your work with the bar diagram. Okay? Questions?
The answer, would it still be right if we put x equals 8 hours?
That'd be okay, yeah. The 8 hours, of course, is the main part of that, okay, for the word problem. Okay, guys? Other questions? All right, here we go. Problem number 10. Page 451, problem number 10. Okay? I'll give you guys 1 minute on this one. Go. Not during a lesson, no. All right, anyone need more time? Okay, give it about another 30 seconds. Okay, when you share with your neighbor, again, I'd like to just share your bar diagram with them, see how your bar diagram compares to theirs, okay? But of course, the two main things, share that equation, make sure the equation is correct, that you guys agree on the equation, and then share your final answer, okay? So, Problem number 10. Okay, go ahead and share. Go.
Location is 15, W equals 300, and I did division to do then I did 300 divided by 15 equals to 2.
I did the same thing, just that my handwriting is super slow.
All right, here we go. Problem number 10. It says, Brandy wants to buy a digital camera that costs $300. As soon as I read that, it's already in my mind because I know how a bar diagram works. That's her goal. That's her total that she's working towards. So it's going to give us probably a bunch of other information, but that's her total, $300 that she's trying to earn. Suppose she saves $15 each week. In how many weeks will she have enough money for the camera? Okay, so I have bar diagram. Like I just said a second ago, her goal or total is $300. And then it's $15 each week. So for 1 week, right, 15. For another week, 15. For another week, 15. This looks just like the one we just did. It's repetitive 15. Okay, so she has to work. We don't know how many weeks she has to work. That's what the whole question is. So remember, this is being repetitive. It's multiplication. So it's 15 times x equals 300. So when I go to solve, box in our variable is being multiplied with 15. We divide by 15, right? Do the opposite. Go to the other side. Do the same thing on the other side. So those cancel. We have x equals, now 15 goes into 32 times, but you have that extra 0, right? So x is equal to 20. And if I need to know my units, it says in how many weeks will she have enough money? So it is 20 weeks. So the equation and the final answer. Okay. Questions on that one? Okay, listen really quickly. All right. Page 450 on number 8. I want to share, let's skip that for really quickly. Let's let's not skip. Let's take a look at number 8. You don't have to write this down. I do want to give you a quick reminder because your number 11 looks just like number 8. Okay? A shark can swim at an average speed of 25 miles per hour. At this rate, how far can a shark swim in 2.4 hours? Listen, they give you this formula. Okay? It's the rate of speed is always equal to the distance divided by the time. That's what that is. So if you're going to do this, the rate of speed on that is 25 miles per hour. That is a rate. Okay? I'm putting it in for R. Then I have over on the other side, take a look. How far can a shark swim in 2.4 hours? Well, 2.4 hours is the time. I'm plugging in 2.4 on the bottom. The D is what I'd have to solve for. And there is your one-step equation. Number 11 is going to be the exact same way in your on your homework. Okay, I just wanted to point that out. All right.